Hey there, it's Michael. Welcome to Whole Again, the show that's here in support of you creating a meaningful life and the person you're becoming. And I'm excited to share a new series with you that will air this summer as America turns 250 years old, which is still pretty young relative to many other countries across this big blue marble that we all share. The series is called A Perfectly Imperfect Union. In 2022, I rode my bike across America, from Astoria, Oregon to the Lincoln Memorial. My wife drove our RV, and she had two co-pilots, Jester and Hope, two Springer Spaniels. And when we did it, America was coming out of the pandemic, and we were hurting from things that had happened prior to the pandemic. Of course, going through what we all went through. And at that time, and this is something I still believe today, is that we were entering an inflection point. An inflection point for us to hopefully pause, breathe, and reflect on who we wish to become as individuals, as communities, and as a country. As I pedaled across America, I wanted to share America's beauty with others, her natural beauty and the beauty of her people. And I also wanted to share where we were hurting. As America turns 250, I believe Kinstugi, which is something we use as a metaphor here at Whole Again, is a perfect metaphor for where we are as a country. There's so much beauty to celebrate, and we can also acknowledge that parts of us feel broken or are broken, but we can find a way to come back together, just like Kinstugi teaches us. And when we do, we don't try to erase or cover up where we have scars or blemishes. We highlight them in gold, and we celebrate them as symbols of our strength and resilience. Kinstugi is called the golden repair, and in essence, we can see beauty in something that's perfectly imperfect. During this series, I plan to speak to at least 2 people in each state and the District of Columbia. So 102 conversations with real folk, as I like to say. We're going to let the celebrities and the big influencers have their day somewhere else. But here, I want to reach out and talk to real people and listen to their reflections as they think about America turning 250 years old. And my hope is that you'll tune in to at least one, if not all 102. Because my theory going into this is that you'll hear different perspectives. Some may be aligned with yours. Others may not. But my hope is that you hear the goodness in your fellow citizens and realize, as Maya Angelou shared with us, we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. I've had the privilege of traveling all over the world and all over this country, and this belief is something that I hold deep inside of me. So yes, I do believe that we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. So if you're ready to meet one of your fellow neighbors who is also perfectly imperfect, like all of us, take a healthy breath in and a slow releasing breath out, and get to know Kimberly Coats. Kimberly, so good to see you today. I know we were talking a lot beforehand, so a lot's happening in your neck of the woods, so it brings like a mixture of different emotions. But I do want to thank you for joining me here on this series and just ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks, and I'm super happy to chat with you today. It's been kind of a emotional roller coaster the last 24 hours, which we may get into. So if I cry, it's just me. It's been very emotional.
No problem. All the emotions and all the feelings, as I like to say as a meditation teacher, the trick is like opening up to all of them and not necessarily trying to strive after all the good ones and like push away the ones that we sort of
Yeah.
deem as unpleasant. We just try to open it up to all of it, and that's I think the way to really live a meaningful life. So I'm right there with you. So we have started to get to know each other here again before we hit record,
Mhm.
but I found you through LinkedIn, a random search. So for those that don't know you, can you take a moment just to introduce yourself, and then also where are you calling in from?
So my name is Kimberly Coats. I'm the CEO of a nonprofit, Team Africa Rising. We have been working in African cycling development since 2007. My husband actually founded the organization. So we lived in Rwanda from 2000. Well, he was there in 2007. I ended up there in 2009. We lived there until 2017 when we handed the program back to the government and said good luck. And we ended up here in Wyoming at my husband's family's ranch that has been in the family since 1905. So it's been quite a journey. I'm a product of a lot of places, born in Chicago, raised in Kansas City, lived in Vegas, Rwanda, Kenya, and now I find myself in Savory, Wyoming. And Savory, Wyoming is a population of like 27, it says on the sign.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's really small. We have a post office, that's it. But we're part of the larger Little Snake River Valley, which includes Dixon and Baggs. So there's about 5 to 600 people in the valley, and when I say valley, it's a huge valley. It's like 20 miles to Baggs. So, um, but I'm fortunate to live on a beautiful ranch that has a river running through it that has lots of acres, and just sitting here talking to you, I saw a deer run across my front field because I have a big
Wow.
window in front of me, and yeah, and so Savory, Wyoming is about, as the crow flies, about 3 miles, north of the Colorado border. We're about 75 miles north of Steamboat Springs.
Gotcha. Well, when I rode my bike across the country in 2022, Wyoming was one of those states that just just really spoke to me.
Mm,
I on my phone, I have the Grand Tetons as my wallpaper because that was like one of the best days as I went through Yellowstone and just like the whole state. A very windy state, I might add, a very vast, wide open state, especially coming from the East Coast.
yes,
You definitely get to appreciate, like, hey, folks, we live in a really big country and we have some states that are really huge. And so yeah, I have a fond place in my heart for the state of Wyoming. So
yes.
I'm glad you're here. So
Well,
let's
thanks for having
pretend we're in the summer
me.
here. You're with your, as I would like to say, you're with your Peloton, you're a group of friends and
Mhm.
family and colleagues that have driven very far to get to your ranch and you're having a nice big picnic. And someone comes to you and says, hey, what does America mean to you?
Mm.
What do you say, Kimberly?
You know, that's been an interesting question for me because at the age of 42, I quit my big job in Vegas and went to Rwanda kind of on a midlife crisis whim, I call it. And my whole world was shaken because I had traveled abroad. I'd been to Europe, I'd been to South Africa, but I'd never like lived in another country. And to live in a country like Rwanda that was still recovering from the 1994 genocide, it just brought up a lot of emotions. And so what America means to me has evolved and changed over the years. But I listened to this podcast the other day, and the speaker said that America was a ragged country. And I go, that's that's how I feel. Like there's so much great about America. Our vastness, our can-do spirit, our innovative entrepreneurial sense, um, and our sense of hope. Like Americans are, for the most part, we seem to be and have been pretty optimistic that things are good. I think that's changed a little bit in the last decade, but I think we're still there. And being with people from other countries, they still see America as the dream, that they can obtain their dreams, their goals. It's the land of promise. So I think that's America to me is just this ragged, hopeful country. We have a lot of things that are really not good, our healthcare, our gun control issues, like, we have some serious issues, but we still have hope that we can fix it, that things can be better, and I think that's what draws people to America, and just our really oddly weird openness about things.
Yes.
I think, like, when I'm traveling abroad, I still spend a lot of time in Africa, mostly West Africa, in countries like Benin. They're always shocked about, like, how loud Americans are, how vocal we
Yes.
are, how opinionated we are, and I've learned to dial that back a little bit. I've learned to listen more because sometimes we do think we know best, and sometimes that is wrong, and we don't, and so living abroad has taught me all the good things about America and all the things that we can make better.
Yeah. We are loud people.
We
In
are
my travel too, people are like, "You guys are so loud."
loud.
And I'm like, "Yeah, we really are." We really are, especially when we travel. It's like if you travel really anywhere else in the world, you can spot the Americans, like, in a
Oh,
heartbeat. You're like, "Oh, Americans," and it doesn't have to be due to the clothes that we wear. It's just, like,
no.
our loudness and our presence and the space that we take up.
Mm,
It really is really telling. I have a good friend who is from New York, and he's always said, like, "Listen, hey, this democracy thing
mm,
is messy. Like, we're
it's
messy." And hence the reason why we call this series A Perfectly Imperfect, right? Where,
mhm,
it was through the adage that I think all have heard, to form a more perfect union. I'm like, we're perfectly imperfect people, and all these perfectly imperfect people
yep,
come together to form a perfectly imperfect union. So that is messy and ragged, right? And
mhm.
complex and not necessarily easy.
Yes, 100%, but it's kind of like now that I'm listening to you say this, it's like the person at a '80s rock concert that might have had a little too much to drink, and we're screaming, and we're like, "Ah!"
Yes,
Sometimes
yeah,
it's America.
yeah. It's like a guy. They're watching Motley Crue perform their greatest hits.
Exactly.
It's like, I think uh, not saying much, but I think their better days have passed them by, and we can
Yes.
probably just move on.
We're
Move
a
on.
bit of a hot mess.
Yeah, at times we can be, yes, and we love the hot messiness of, who we are, but I did wanna capture just the whole concept of hope, like, we are hopeful, and with hope's different than optimism. With hope,
Mhm,
we do take action, and I think we wanna take action, and people come here, as you mentioned, and
mhm,
they wanna take action to create a better
mhm,
life for their family and I think that's one of our beautiful strengths is that we have so many people coming
Mhm.
from all different perspectives, all different places around the planet, with this desire to
Mhm.
make life a bit better. And
100%. And I think
yeah,
that's if there's anything that unnerves me currently is the the way that we are starting to close those opportunities to so many people because we have to remember that America was founded by people not American. Um, and the diversity and the interesting people that come from all over the world to be here just makes us better. I mean, for instance, I had a heart procedure done last year, and my cardiologist was from Syria. My EP doctor was Egyptian Brazilian. My nurse was Filipino, and my anesthesiologist was an African American man. And
wow, that's so
I
cool.
just like, I sat in this hospital in Vegas, and I was so I felt this, like, cocoon of care and love and, like, I knew I was gonna be okay, and I'm like, "This is what makes us so great, is this."
Yes,
This
yes,
diversity, these interesting people, these people who come here to learn their skill or to practice, like, I can only imagine the stories from my Syrian cardiologist, like, who knows what his life was? So, I think sometimes we just need to remember that what makes us great is that.
absolutely, absolutely. So one question I've been asking folks, because to your point, we are a country of immigrants,
Mhm,
that we usually have a family story about our connection to this land or our connection to how our family came here.
mhm.
Do you know much about your family story?
I do. My family, speaking of hot mess, is um my background on my dad's side is Polish Catholics, from Michigan. My mom's side's German, very quiet, very reserved. Um, but what makes it super interesting for me is actually my husband's family who owned this ranch since 1905, and the history in his family, I mean, I'm surrounded by his history, and his cousins are coming this weekend for a family reunion, and to be on land that has been around for generations, I mean, we're the privileged ones that benefit from generational wealth. I could never own a ranch in Wyoming on on a nonprofit salary in a million years. I come from a long line of poor people. Um, so I feel it. Like, I feel the presence, and it was funny because I had sent an email to the group. I'm very this is why I wanted to do this podcast with you. Like, I love the summers here because we have this big old main house, and I'm very much about formality. Like, I think we've lost the importance of formality. So, like, we home cook family style meals, like, from scratch. I don't do processed food. Um, we don't use paper plates, plastic cups, plastic spoons, like, everything is the china that's been here since God only knows how long. I have so much, and, everything's cooked in this amazing array of cast iron pans,
Yeah,
and
that's what I was thinking as you were sharing. Sorry to interrupt, but it's like I had this vision of your kitchen with a whole bunch of different cast iron pans hanging all around. It's just like
that's
if,
exactly I have a stove that my husband's grandmother traded 6 horses for and was brought here sometime in the 1950s. It's this massive cast iron 8-burner stove with a griddle, and the oven doesn't work anymore, but the stove does, and we still use it, and so, his grandmother was very formal. She came from some money, she came from the Jackson area back in the 40s and 50s, and she was very much about, like, formality. And I had said that to everyone. I said, "We're going to sit with, like, no phones at the table.
Yes.
We're gonna eat with actual plates and and china
Yes.
and cutlery and, like, experience that," because I think that drives conversation when we take out all the distractions and we care for ourselves. When we care for ourselves with good environments, good food, community, then we can have conversations, difficult conversations, because we start in a place of community and a place of love.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Yeah, there is something about being around the table without our digital devices
Mhm.
and appreciating the food in front of us. And I would say in a way, there's conversation, of course, but an approach to mindful eating. And from that point to your as you shared, we can start to have conversation. And as we have more conversation, we build more trust. And as we build more trust, we can have more complex conversations, and even conversations that could be maybe somewhat challenging.
Mhm.
But we start with that the foundation, and
Mhm.
as opposed to right now, our foundation seems to be built by our smartphones and social
Yes,
media, which is a little bit of a shaky ground to stand on. So,
very, very.
so do you have a take nowadays? We just talked a little bit about like being real and being present, and like maybe pushing to the side technology. But do you have a take on AI? Because obviously that's in the public domain. This debate on AI, either it's
Yeah.
going to liberate us and
It's
solve
gonna
complex
destroy
problems, or it will destroy humanity. And there's a whole bunch of people in the middle.
it.
Where do you sit on AI currently?
So I use AI, um, but, I use it intentionally. I'm very like, I don't do everything AI. I'm a writer. I love to write. I would never let AI write anything for me, something important, because I think what happens then is you lose your voice.
Oh,
Um,
you
I
lose your
think
muscle.
you do lose your
You
voice
do, like, it's just like
for sure,
maps.
for sure.
Google Maps, I think, has atrophied our ability to navigate.
100%. And taking all of this into account, I think we need to realize what AI is and use it for what can be for good. Um, but here in Wyoming, interestingly, we are one of the states that they're putting AI data centers in, and there's
Mm,
a lot of pushback, and rightly so. Wyoming doesn't have water. Water is always an issue. We had a horrible winter, and by horrible, I mean not that it snowed constantly, which I would generally say is a horrible winter because as somebody from Las Vegas, I'm not a huge
yeah,
fan of winter. But this winter, I'm just like, "We're in trouble. We're so in trouble." There was no snow. Um, we saw the ground all year. Usually, once it starts snowing in November, we don't see the ground until late April, and that didn't happen. Like February, March, we had temps in the 70s, and I'm like, "This is
yeah,
frightening." And
yes.
so water is really low. Like, if you ask any rancher here right now, they're like, "We're worried. We're really worried about the water." And AI
Or
data.
about and the fire risk.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
and the fire
which,
risk.
go hand in glove, right?
Yes.
So, water issues, fire risk,
Mhm. And then
all
you
gets
throw
wrapped
in.
around.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then you throw in data centers that they're putting up. They put in some outside of Cheyenne. They're looking because 'cause they're looking at these small towns. And this is the challenge. I don't think AI companies are being forthwith about the risks and the realities of data centers. I think people are becoming more savvy. There's debate right now in Evanston, which is on the far western edge of Wyoming, a small community on the Utah border, about a data center, and I think people are waking up to ask the right questions. Like, because I think it's been sold as something it's really not, that it's a huge job generator and it generates construction jobs to build it. But after that, there's not a lot of jobs. It takes, like, does it take more than it gives? And I think people are finding out it takes way more than it gives.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
I think that's my stance on AI is every time I go in and use AI, I think, "Oh my gosh, how much energy am I using?" And, we've seen our electric bills go up. We've seen, and that seems to be another issue, and yeah, it's complex. You can't it's not black and white, and you have
No, it's
to
not.
but I
No.
think it's important that these communities are starting to get more and more engaged, and they're figuring it out, like, "Huh, let's ask some questions before we just sell our soul."
Absolutely. That's good. That's very good to hear,
Yeah,
because around here, it's so densely populated
yeah,
and people are, like, connected in a different way than, say, rural America. There's not a lot of places to put these data centers. And so, the big tech execs go into the rural parts of the country where there's not a lot of people.
yeah,
You mentioned you had put 27, 29 people in your town or whatever. So there's not a lot of people to push back on it, right?
exactly.
You go into an area of the country that's more concentrated, then you have a huge number of people to push back.
Mhm,
So,
yeah.
so when you think about like all of our messiness, all of our raggedness, and you could work to repair or heal one aspect of it, maybe not perfectly, but it may be in a meaningful first step. What would it be?
Wow, that is such a broad and
I
deep
know.
question.
Yes.
Um, I think we've always had this really amazing ability to debate issues. I never was on the debate team. I always wanted to be on the debate team, but I was a high school jock. Like I was in sports but I always admired debaters and I wanted to be like them. But the challenge I see is that until we can come to a foundation of basic truths, it's hard to debate because you're not debating ideology or principle or technicalities. You don't leave yourself open to other ideas. If you are mired in propaganda or misinformation, um, it's really hard. And I mean, for example, my parents, I mean, they've known I've worked in Africa since 2009, but they never ask me any questions really about it. And the other day, my dad said he calls me and he's like, "Are you near Nigeria?" "Well," I said, "Benin is next to Nigeria, yeah." And he goes, "They're killing Christians in Nigeria." And I go, "Okay, this sounds like a talking point somewhere that you got."
Yes.
And he said, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Dad, I'm fine. Benin is a young democracy. They just had peaceful elections." And I said, he goes, "Are there Muslims in Benin?" "Yes, Dad, most of the north of Benin is Muslim." And he goes, "But they're killing Christians." I said, "Dad, it's Boko Haram. They kill everybody. They kill indiscriminately. They don't care. They will kill young women. They will kidnap them. They will, you know, and that's the thing. He was coming from this place. And even though I am somebody who has lived it, he still questioned it. And I'm like, "Dad, I'm like literally I felt like Sarah Palin going, I can see Nigeria from my balcony." Um is Nigeria dangerous? Yes, in parts. Yes, we take precautions. Yes, there's strife everywhere. But to just boil it down to some talking point you heard on some news show is not the answer. Like, be open to asking questions. Whether I don't share much on social media. Unfortunately, I'm on social media because of my business. But, if I'm going to share something, Number one, I read it. I read all of it. If it's an article, I read it all. And then I take that article, and if I have questions about that article, I look for other articles from other sources and from independent sources. I'm not a huge fan of CNN, and I'm not a huge fan of Fox News. I need to find something that is proven, that is real. And then we start, and then we have conversations. Because if you believe misinformation, if you're not willing to find out the truth, and sometimes it's hard. Of course it's hard. If I say something or do something, then I find out later I was incorrect. Number one, I'm going to fix it immediately. I'm going to retract what I said. I'm going to be very open about the fact that I made a mistake. And I think we need to be able to do that. The great Liz Cheney, our former representative from Wyoming, I disagreed with her on many, many things. But I got to tell you one thing she did. She was interviewed by Leslie Stahl, and this was years ago. I think it was when she was up for reelection. And Leslie Stahl asked her about her background with her sister. Her sister is gay and married to a woman. And Liz had come out and said really horrible, hateful things about her sister. And reading them is shocking. And Leslie Stahl asked her about it. And Liz said this. She looked straight in the camera and she said, "I was wrong. I was wrong. I love my sister. I love her wife. I love my family. And I was wrong." That's what we need to do. That's where we need to be. We need to be going to each other, "I was wrong. And this isn't the way it is." And, I think sometimes that we get so stuck, like during COVID, people were saying, well, the scientists said this and now they say this. And I'm like, because things change, because we learn more, we're exposed to more. My sister's a doctor. I called her and I'm like, what should I do? And she's like, put on a mask. It's not going to hurt you either way. Like, she's like,
Yeah,
just hold it,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
and
But things were
so
moving so quickly
they were
back
moving so
then.
quickly, and so people have
Yeah.
taken that quick movement, the change of things, as a negative, but it's not a negative. It's not that the scientists were wrong. The scientists just learned. They knew nothing about this virus, very little about this virus when it started, and as it progressed, they learned, yeah, you don't need to sanitize your groceries, but wearing a mask could be helpful for a variety of things, especially if you are immunocompromised. So I think that's where we're at in America. Like, if I hope for anything, I hope for conversation. I hope for strategic debate. I hope for people to be open and honest that they could be wrong. And if they're wrong, to own it. And that's okay to be wrong. And, but come to a place of truth. If you hear something, go investigate it, and not investigate it in the same confirmation bias that you are steeped in. I look to other things. I love the fact that Pete Buttigieg goes on Fox News because it gives a different perspective. So I think if we can do that, if we can just stop the noise, put down our phones, stop the noise, turn off the TVs, read, and read a variety of things, maybe we can start having these tough conversations with love and honesty and vulnerability and knowing that we could be wrong, and that's okay.
That's a good wish for the country as she turns 250. And also for on a birthday, we generally like to have cake.
Mhm.
So what kind of cake are you serving for America's 250th, Kimberly?
Oh, I'm not a big cake eater.
Okay. Are you a pie fan or just like no sweets or
No,
which no judgment is passed. Like, there's no shame in the non-cake eating lover category.
what I think is America, at least for me in Wyoming, is there every summer, this farmer comes up from Palisade, Colorado, and I don't know if you've ever had Palisade peaches. The
No.
most astonishing fruit at its height of ripeness that you will ever ingest. It's kind of like mangoes in northern Benin during May. You can't find
Ah.
a better fruit. So these Palisade peaches come up, and then what we do is I take a flat of peaches and I make a whole bunch of peach cobbler in my
Oh.
big cast iron pans.
Oh gosh, that sounds like, oh, I
And
think we can stop the series now with this, like, that just sounds, like, amazing. Oh my gosh.
yes.
And a
So,
little vanilla ice cream along the side, I think that could be fitting.
well, you know what's crazy is we can't do ice cream out here because we are 60 miles from our closest ice cream. So
By the time you brought it home from the store, it'd be melted.
it would be
So,
melted, even with dry ice. It gets a little
yeah.
So we take fresh cream and whip it with a little vanilla and put the fresh cream on top of the Palisade peach cobbler. That to me is what I would serve America on its 250th birthday in my cast iron pan.
I like that. I like that. Like how you're thinking. I'm also
Yeah.
a big fan of mangoes. I was known as
Oh.
trauma patient mango until my wife came to New Mexico to ID me. So, like, we have mangoes all through our house. So,
Oh,
I
wow.
think I need to get some of those mangoes as well.
Oh my god.
We gotta strike a deal, and I need to ask my oldest daughter who lives in Colorado to travel to Palisades, Colorado to pick up some peaches. We might be road tripping. All
I'm
right. So,
telling you, best
yeah,
in the world.
it sounds pretty good. So we'll round out our conversation on this. So I've been asking people. The person I talked to last, which happens to be Will from Knoxville, Tennessee,
Oh, interesting.
what question he would have for you, and then in turn you get to ask a question of the next person I chat with, and it can be about
Mm,
anything. And so Will's question is, what event in your life really shaped you as a person? Again, a pretty big question. And then after that answer, you get to ask a question of the next person
mm.
I chat with.
Hands down, that's an easy answer for me. It was moving to Rwanda when I was 42 years old. Just
Yeah,
picking up and leaving. I had a big job in Vegas, big money, big perks. I had a life, and just I was lost, and I wanted to make impact in the world, and I didn't
yeah,
think my impact was selling chicken nuggets to Caesar's Casino. So I was having this existential crisis, I really was.
sure.
And I wrote in my journal 3 things. In June of 2008, sorry, June of 2008, I wrote in my journal that I wanted to do 3 things. I'd always set goals, but it was like, make $1,000,000 by the time I'm 35. It was very, like, me focused,
Yeah,
and I wrote down 3 things. I wanted to do something around my love of cycling, I wanted to travel, and I wanted to help people. And then I left it to the universe, and I less than 6 months later, it was probably 3 months later, I was reading this article in Outside Magazine about Rwanda and about this cycling team that has been developed, and Jason Gay, who now writes for the Wall Street Journal, who I just love, he wrote the article, and I read the article, and I went, "Here's my fork in the road. It's my fork in the road." And I was just like, "Oh my god, this is it." And I was riding with a friend, and I was telling him this. I go, "What do I do?" And he goes, "Looks like you gotta go to Rwanda." And I go, "How do I do that?" And he goes, "I don't know, but you gotta go." And I love, like, sometimes I have lots of male friends because I think females, we tend to overanalyze everything, and men just cut to the chase. He's like, "Just go to Rwanda," and I'm like, "Okay," and literally, I was on a plane 6 months later to Rwanda. I was only supposed to be there 3 months. I stayed 8 years, and I had impact, and I did important things, and And I don't say that to brag about myself. I say that because I got so much more out of the experience than I gave, and I it was transformational. It changed the way I viewed the world. It made the world way more gray for me as opposed to black and white. I had very entrenched values about what I thought was right, and those were completely upended when I got into a situation where I was the minority and I was the foreigner, and I learned so much about myself, about other people. So that was my event, and it has changed me. I turned 60 in 2 days, and
Oh, happy early birthday.
I'm having peach cobbler, by the way, and
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
but really that's I am a totally different person than I was at 42.
Oh, that's
Completely
so
different.
cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Well, I talked to Lloyd next from Minnesota.
Okay.
What
Ooh.
question do you have for Lloyd?
Oh, Minnesota. Oh, um, Minnesota is such an amazing state. Oh my gosh, there's so many things I wanna ask that I don't know if I can ask.
You
So
can
I
ask
guess
anything. It doesn't have to be about America 250. It doesn't have to be about the country. It can, much like Will's question, it's about
Mhm.
life. It could be really about anything.
I watched the protests in Minnesota, and I think most of us around the US were galvanized by what was happening in Minnesota, and I so admired the people of Minnesota for what they did and for how they cared for one another during one of the toughest times I think that they have faced in decades. And I would just want to know from him how he felt. I mean, we felt like watching it as outsiders, my friends who live around the world, we talked about Minnesota almost every day. And we were so enamored with the strength and the community and the fight and the beauty of Minnesotans coming together, and I would just want to know from somebody who's actually from the state how they viewed it and how they felt, because I told my husband, I'm like, "Oh, if we ever leave Wyoming, I'd move to Minnesota. I got winters down," because so I was just so impressed by the beauty of the people. Even during the hardest, darkest days, instead of fighting each other, they all came together. And I'm sure there were many different views about immigration, about the way to handle borders and everything else, but they came together to take care of their own. At least that's what we saw from the outside. So I would just wanna know how he felt from the inside.
All right. I will ask him that very question. Yeah, and you get to hear how he responds. Absolutely. Thanks for representing Wyoming, Kimberly. And it was so great to have this conversation with you. And I appreciate the ripple effect that you're putting into the world to help us become a more perfectly imperfect union. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I have to say, after Kimberly shared her love of peach cobbler, I sent a text message to my oldest daughter who lives out in Colorado. And I was like, hey, where's Palisades, Colorado? And she's like, that's a weird question, Dad. Why do you ask? Well, I just got done talking to an amazing human, and she brought up the Palisade peaches. And my oldest said, oh my God, they're the best. They're at all the farmers markets out there. So I got to get some of that peach cobbler, I believe. I also love Kimberly's question that's very specific to Lloyd, and Lloyd will be our next conversation on our series. And as always, thanks for being here. Thank you for listening and helping us create a more perfectly imperfect union. And I hope you'll tune in tomorrow for the next episode of Whole Again. Until then, let's remember to celebrate our scars as golden symbols of our strength and resilience. And don't forget to have fun storming the castle. And if you wish to learn more about creating beautiful ripples and how to prevent a bad moment from turning into a bad day, please visit my website, michaelobrienshift.com, and sign up for my newsletter called The Ripple Effect. And join us each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at Whole Again and discover how you can heal, grow, and become more resilient. And celebrate our scars as golden symbols of strength and resilience. Until then, remember, you can always come back to your breath. You've got this, and we've got you.